What is up, everybody? We have approximately 10 minutes with the most renowned pistol shooter in the world, Mr. Jerry Miculek. That's not even going out on a limb, Jerry. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You're the most renowned pistol shooter, maybe even just shooter in the world. We're lucky to have you here. And we got about 10 minutes here to go over and teach the folks out there, Jim, how to shoot a pistol.
How to shoot a pistol. Now, we're going to go into this kind of assuming, like, very, very, very intro, like, little knowledge at this point,
I mean,
right?
This is like, I bought a pistol, now what? And I mean, honestly, this is for the listeners out there, and it's for me, too, because we were down at the range yesterday. It's been a minute since I shot a pistol. I could use a lot of this information.
So yeah, you're going to be learning from a great here. If you get the chance to catch it on YouTube, we've got a pistol here. It's actually Jerry's race gun, so he may throw out a little visual here and there, and we'll try and describe it. But all right, Jerry. So if you got a brand new shooter, they've got a pistol, and you're now just getting them started on how to shoot the dang thing. Where do we start?
Well, trigger control is going to be more important than sight alignment.
Oh, okay.
That's always a given. If you try to make it perfect, you're probably going to destroy it with a bad trigger pull, press, whatever you want to call it. You hear it described in 30 different languages, but the whole idea is to have an acceptable sight picture and not destroy it with bad trigger technique.
Okay, got it. So basically, we've got to. Well, can you go into a little bit of how we hold the thing too? Because that also comes into eventually the trigger press or pull, like you said, whatever you're going to call it. Because if you're not holding it right, that might be a little difficult, right?
Yeah, that's when I started shooting handgun, there's been a great amount of advancement on how to hold a handgun. As simple as that. Back in the days of the Army, when they issued in 1911, the only thing they ever instructed a soldier was either classic bullseye stance, which would be, body bladed into the target like this, and the gun would be directly in line with your arm.
All right.
And an advanced technique that they had in World War II, and they taught the OSS and all the special forces back then, was a 1911. There again, in line with the arm, and you shot like this.
One-handed,
and you point shot it.
What was that FBI stance you were talking about?
Well,
yesterday?
that was an advancement over that, where you use your left arm to cover some of your vitals as you engaged. So if you had any incoming rounds, this might negate some of the penetration of those rounds.
That was your body armor at the time.
And you crouched a little bit to make your silhouette a little lower.
But they took the handgun very literally. It was just a one-hand thing.
Yes, it was a lot of point shooting.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good with point shooting. You should know how to point shoot.
That's kind of instinctual, where you I'm not necessarily using the sights really a ton. I'm just kind of pointing my body.
And that's what you have to realize as a handgun owner. The closer you are to a threat, the more equal they are to you. Because just about anybody can just point and make a shot. As the distances increase, the ability to get on target and control comes into play. And if you're in control, you want to have more distance between you and a threat.
Oh, got it.
Because me to you, all I have to do is, I got you.
Any idiot can hit mark right now.
But that's the reality of it. So the more distance, if I'm, say, 12 feet away from him, or 15 or 5 yards or whatever, my odds with my ability would be greater than his, because now it takes a little bit more application of what I need to get on target. Trigger control, sight alignment, how to control it and recoil, what I need to see for the next shot. So up close, anything works.
Okay.
So as you can increase distance, distance is your friend, technique is your friend. Being able to repeat your performance on command is your friend. So if you buy a handgun and you're going to use it one time a year, or you went out and qualified, you got your concealed carry permit, then you throw it in the drawer and you don't shoot it, and you think under this high-stress situation that you're going to be John Wayne, every man thinks he's John Wayne. I thought I was John Wayne when I bought a pistol. Then I went to the first match and I went, whoa, I'm not even close to John Wayne. I can't even saddle his horse, So what competition actually teaches you is application under some kind of stress.
Okay.
Is there someone shooting at me? No. It's not life or death, but you have a little bit of ego because you've trained a little bit and you want to compete well. So you get there and you get your ego busted. And you realize, well, I really don't know what I'm doing here. And I need to go train some more. If I want to have a repeat performance and I want sponsors, I got to get better. So my ego has to be checked at the gate. And I come in and I train and I get realistic. So There's cold times and there's hot times. When I'm out practicing, if you give me 50 reps to warm up, I'm going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
You go to a match, just like take it out the box and shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reality between hot and cold. Kind of makes sense?
Yeah.
And if you actually had to use it in a defensive situation, you're going to be way cold.
Right.
You're going to be way spiked. Your adrenaline's going to be really tight. You're going to be tight. So have you ever worked in that environment? I never have. So I try to simulate it through competition.
Gotcha.
Well, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Before you even talk,
Yeah.
I mean, before you even
Yeah.
talk about any of the mechanics of shooting, you actually just understand that you got to have the right expectations of what you can
Right.
expect out of
Yeah.
yourself.
You know, probably when you hunted, you had buck fever.
Yeah.
You know how you get that adrenaline dump?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were at the Buckmasters match. This was years and years ago. My brother-in-law and I, Jim, we had competed before. And we went to watch the archery guys compete. You know, we shot pistol and rifle. I never saw an archer compete. So we were watching this one fella, a young fella, and he was in the competition. And he went to draw his bow, and you could tell he had buck fever. And it was very apparent. I've had that, you know, when you're hunting, you get that shakiness, that adrenaline dump, and you get that in competition. And you also get it in any kind of high-stress encounter. So you want to replicate that to where you get kind of accustomed to it.
Yeah.
Then you start to feed off of it, and you have to believe it's actually a positive. That's a gift.
Right.
That adrenaline dump is a spike. You can be negative, it can be positive. So you want it to be positive. And when I get that dump, I know I'm going to have a good ride. It's going to be in my favor. But God's given you to make the moment. It's a gift. So if you look at it as a negative, you're gonna apply it as a negative. To me, it's like, whoa, here I go, brother.
Yeah.
We're gonna run.
It's almost like you have to harness the power.
You do, and you really want it.
Yeah.
You really want it because it gives you the ability to see better and react quicker. It's a gift. So if you use it wisely, it can be your advantage.
Mentality's huge.
I mean, you go into,
Yeah.
like you said, even from the hunting perspective, which I remember the first deer that I ever shot at, completely lost my mind. Buck fever all over the place.
Yep.
I'm sure I missed by a mile, right? But then, like you said, you get those reps in, you practice, you just through more
Yeah,
experiences
right.
of being put in that situation. I still get excited, but you're able to like kind of harness it
Right.
and control it, suppress it, and then it's almost like after. Then it's like, whoa,
It's a ride. It's a gift, man. You want to ride it. You want to have fun with it, enjoy it, because that's why you're there.
right,
If it wouldn't be exciting, you wouldn't be there.
right.
I'd be cutting grass or something instead of shooting.
Do you get excited cutting grass?
I make it a challenge like everything. I was, my daughter was laughing at me. I cut most of the property, so I have a lot of grass to cut. So I take it as a challenge. I look at the watch and go.
How quick can I do this?
How to make it short a period of time.
Strategize.
Yeah. So you make everything a challenge. It'll get better.
Yeah.
But how to shoot a pistol. And that's something that has really evolved since I started shooting. It's been I've had 5 or 6 very distinct cycles on what I wanted to get out of the gun because the application has gotten so much faster.
Okay.
'Cause
Right.
if I wouldn't have evolved, I would have fossilized. I'm in super senior division, and I'm still competing. So the way I got there is I always believe there's something better. And the guys are getting younger, so I have to see what they're doing. And I always believe that when I go to the range, everything I'm doing is wrong. There has to be a better way.
Well, another mental thing.
Yeah.
Because if you think that you're doing it the right way, you're never going to change it.
Yeah.
Right.
I met a gentleman. He gave me a lot of perspective on things. He's got 1,400 patents. He told me when he files a patent, he knows in his heart he missed one. He's not satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to make it better. You
Yeah.
always miss. Even though he had his patent and he threw it in a box and it was patentable, he goes, something there isn't right.
Yeah.
I can do that better. So once you have his term was never fall in love with your own invention.
I think that's good.
Because there's always better. And that when the new guys show up, they have the horsepower and the eyesight and the physical abilities to just run over me. So I have to work harder on technique to stay current and application of the gun to the target. So that's what I try to specialize on is when I go shoot is how much I can see and how easy I can shoot this with the least amount of stress on me and how I can repeat it on command to have an acceptable performance at that level.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That easy, that hard kind of a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Because holding the gun, and you talk to 7, I've got an empty pistol here, by the way, and it's empty mag. So what has really changed back in the day when we talked about the military, you know, this one-arm thing.
Yeah.
It's basically a point shot, or you did a target, you know, a target style. So in modern pistol application to a target, you pretty much stand square to the target.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to do is mitigate any recoil on the gun, because if it's in the air, it's not on target.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if it's in a life and death situation, it's better to give than it is to receive. So you want your rate of fire to
Seems practical.
It seems it is practical.
I think that's even written in the Bible.
You're trying to knock the air out the other guy as fast as you can. You know, that's what you got to do. You got to knock the air out of him. So
it's reality.
It's reality. So the idea is, how do I control that in a stressful environment to where I can repeat it on command, even in low light, high stress? Kind of all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So what has evolved from the military, early days of law enforcement and everything, is to a basic stance square to the target.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it some kind of isosceles, or you can call it whatever. But the idea, I want my vision to be, just like I'm talking to you, now I'm applying the gun to the target.
Right.
Because if I have to do any kind of thing other than that, it's a thing that I have to repeat under stress.
Gotcha.
So if you watch anybody good at any sport, they look very relaxed, very fluid. And the reason for that is they've taken everything out of that performance that doesn't equate to the performance, and they don't do it.
Right.
Like you're
no excess.
That's
right,
one thing
no excess.
that I notice with
Yeah.
you, other competitive shooters, or like you said, really anything. The everything, the level of efficiency
Yep.
of movement is just so calculated. Like you said, you've removed the extra.
Yep.
It's almost like if you're gonna machine something, right, out of a piece of aluminum, right? Like right now, my pistol shooting would be the block of aluminum. Jerry's is like just this finely crafted thing that is only the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what it comes down to, you want to see as best you can.
Yeah.
So I stand pretty square. Say that camera was my target. I'm going to be pretty much square to it. My arms are going to look almost exactly alike when I present the gun to the target.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want recoil to come back straight and not one side or the other.
Okay.
Yeah. If I find myself having to lean my face to see the sight, that means I have to go to the gun, and the gun is not coming to me.
Right.
And I can't repeat that on the low light because I don't know where the end of that muzzle is. So
Okay.
it has to be right under my dominant eye. My arms, I want my arms the same. I want to be a little bit positive on my stance. And if I stand just like this, there's probably nothing I can put in my hands that'll push me back.
Okay. And when you say positive on your stance, is that like a little bit of a forward lean?
Yeah,
then?
pretty much, you know, my feet are about shoulder width apart or so, and my nose is going to always be on my leading toe.
Okay.
And I don't feel any weight in my heels, hardly at all, and my knees are flexed. And the idea of the knees being flexed, once I have this position, it's like a gun turret. So when I go left or right, I'm going to traverse parallel to the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't do that, you'll get this. You're going to ground it. I call it going to ground.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
So once you get a turret, you just bend on your knees, and it's just that easy.
It's just that simple.
It is. It's very simple, but people. I was talking to John Satterwhite, exhibition guy. Just a few years ago, I was asking him about his. You know, he was shooting demos and stuff, so I got to pick him. I said, John, what's the secret of shooting a shotgun well? He said, it's drawing lines in the sky. He told me he used to sit in his hotel room when he was bored and just try to track the corner of the room, the ceiling, you know, the creases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you ever tried that, it's super hard
Okay.
I can imagine.
because it takes a lot of form.
And you can't be lazy.
Well,
You can't. You gotta.
you have to
it
go.
involves the whole body.
It does.
right?
The same thing with pistol shooting. So once you make it rigid and in one point, you go to move, you move the gun, but you're not bringing your body with you.
Yeah.
So I say you're shooting, you're leaving yourself behind. And even on a distance of a plate rack, if you don't bring your body with you, you're going to go into the bunker.
Right.
That makes sense.
So it's just very simple. So once you get rigid and you get rigid on your vision, I've seen a lot of techniques that work, and a lot of guys shoot different and get the same results, but the basic premises is going to always be that. The elbow is never under the gun
Mm-hmm.
because you've made a pivot point.
It goes up and down.
So you break it to the side just that little bit. It can't go under it. You put it under, it will. right there it won't.
There are all ways of describing it that I haven't actually heard anybody. I haven't heard it articulated this way yet. It's very.
And I learned that from some little Filipino lady shooters, Valerie Lavanza and her sisters from the Philippines.
Yeah.
Shooting Steel Channel like 20 years ago. I was watching these little ladies shoot, and their whole arm was not bigger than my wrist. And they were coming out and drawing these 1911 38 Supers and shooting 5 to go, which is 4 targets and a stop plate, and they were burning this thing in like 2.6 seconds and not being happy with the scores. And they have no physical. I'm a guy. My arm, like I said,
You're just bigger.
You're a bigger guy and you got more power, but you're not using it wisely.
Yeah.
You're putting all this grunt on and you're not getting any application out of it. So that elbow thing was very unique to them.
Okay.
Kind of interesting. So
it most certainly is
I
interesting.
always watch the body language and the dynamics of someone who shoots better than me.
Mm-hmm.
You can instantly get a read from them and you go like, well, that's got a point right there. So I'm going to go to range, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it right, try it wrong, make it happen.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, throw it out, try something else. But once you get fossilized in your thought, you're like that patent. Once you file for that patent, you think you know everything, and it's always something better.
Mm-hmm.
So you always have to think about what the other guy's doing. What's his form? Why is he standing like this? What's his head position? And So it's evolving, and it's getting faster. The guys are getting super quick.
They are.
So
now, what do you? We've kind of talked about the body and the arms a little bit. So, kind of, I like this. I like that we're talking about the mental side of things and the mechanical side of things. But then you talk about like the hands real quick because you got to grip the gun and then go back. We'll go back into the trigger thing that you were talking about.
The thing about the pistol is like just like a revolver. We empty. I'll show you that again. You want to get it as low as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea of that, if I shot this handgun like this, it's gonna recoil straight back
with your hands perfectly in line with the slide, which is unfortunately not.
So if you hold it here,
possible.
You're giving it more leverage.
Yeah.
So what you want to do, you want to get it as high as you can. Even a little bit of gap between that and the frame is not acceptable.
Okay. So yeah, get that webbing of your palm
Yeah,
between
you
your
wanna
thumb
get-
and your
you wanna
fingers
get it-
way up in that.
You want to get
What do
it.
they call that again? The beaver tail,
Beaver
sort
tail.
of.
Yeah, the tang.
Kind of tang,
Yeah,
yeah.
back of the frame. You try to get your hand as high as you can, and there again, you're trying to get that bore line down to the center line of your hand.
Okay. Gotcha.
You know,
So it's
and-
kind of just lining
yeah.
up with. Okay.
And the big thing that has evolved, and Rob Lathan and back in the day, they were shooting basically with both hands with the thumbs toward the target.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of your weak hand, you get a lot of control from your offhand. And some guys get 60-80% here. So there's a lot of disparity between how much you do with your strong hand and how much you do with your weak hand. Your target's going to tell you.
Okay.
But what you never want to do is have a segmented recoil. When you fire the gun, this hand moves and this one doesn't.
Oh, okay.
'Cause
Sure.
that tells you right there you're not using your weak hand correctly.
Right.
They should both be part of the equation equally.
Right.
Well, at least they
Yeah.
should. When you
Right.
see it from the outside,
Right.
it should
Yeah.
look like they're doing
Yep.
kind of the same thing.
So it's what you want to do is never have this segmented recoil because that muzzle's in the sky, and when it's in the sky, it's not on target.
Mm-hmm.
So a target even closer as that camera is, a little bit of muzzle deflection with just my finger doing this is about 8 inches at that camera.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when you're shooting rapid fire, I call it a noodle. If your end of your muzzle is noodling and you're just discharging rounds, you'll have a dispersion at that camera at that range about 8 inches.
Yeah.
So the tighter you hold it and you don't let it noodle, it comes down straight as a platform, it'll always return to where it was.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how fast I pull the trigger, it's going to be flat to the target.
And a guy like you and these other experienced pistol shooters, that's the thing, too, that you notice going back to how relaxed you look. Because you managed to hold a pistol tightly with your hands.
Yeah.
But also almost segment that, using the segment term now maybe in a positive light.
Mm-hmm.
But you managed to have your hands be doing a lot of work and
Yep,
gripping hard
yep,
with the
yep.
rest of your body staying relaxed. Like your shoulder, you're not like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And
Well,
you kind of, the whole rest of your body's relaxed while those are doing a lot of work.
what's really hard, and this is where there's a lot of discrepancy on how hard you use your right hand, because a lot of guys, when they use their right hand, they can't separate their finger from the grip.
Very important.
You see,
That trigger
I'm
finger.
holding it. You can look at my forearm, and my finger is completely loose.
Yeah.
You know,
Nothing is moving but your finger right
right? And I can choke that thing. You know, break the grip off of it, and still have that finger loose on the end. And I kind of attribute that to a zillion rounds of practice. But you know the old that instrument called a didgeridoo,
Oh yeah.
where they can constantly blow and inhale at the same time. That's a learned muscle response. It's not natural to do it, and people won't equate not using the right hand strongly with trigger control, but they haven't shot enough.
Okay.
It's a learned thing. So when you pick up a pistol, and you're not going to master it, but you can get a lot of good technique that's going to give you a survivable outcome in a short period of time if you go to the right instructor. They can get you oriented real quick. But there's always advanced levels of any kind of application of any object or whatever, toy or racing or whatever. But that's really hard to do, is use your right hand extremely well and have your finger separated from it.
Sure. Because that trigger finger, going way back to what we said at the beginning, is paramount. The way that you go about pressing, pulling, whatever, the trigger.
Yep.
That is, I mean,
that has to be straight to the rear. And that's another thing about the old way of holding a pistol. Your finger was short. It made it harder to pull the trigger straight. So the more you stand square to the target, the longer your trigger finger is, the more you can pull it out of the trigger guard and address the trigger in a straight rearward fashion.
Okay.
We might be there right now, but so two of the questions I have were, what is the most important thing to get right, and what do people struggle with the most? And is that the trigger press?
Trigger pull is more important than sight alignment. So what you have to realize, and my father-in-law taught me this, is a bullseye champion. And I was always in discussion with him, what do you see on a sight picture? And he said, no matter how much you're wobbling, 50% of the time it goes through the X-ring. So if you just trigger what you see, you got a 50-50 target. If you try to make it perfect, you'll always destroy it with a bad trigger press. So the human wants to be perfect. You know how you have a red dot on your gun, you get it right in the center of that target, you go, ooh.
Right.
Right. You're like, oh, now it's good.
Bad trigger press or pull or whatever. So if you just take your wobble and just press it to the rear, you got a 50-50 target. Doesn't have to be perfect. The trigger has to be good. So I always go for good trigger technique over sight alignment.
Okay.
It is pretty incredible, when you finally just kind of let yourself detach what your eyes are seeing so much. You're like, let's just get good enough and really focus on that. Even if you're like, no, there's no way that was a good shot. If you had a good trigger press, you could look at the target and you're like, what? My goodness, it's actually in the 10 ring.
Well, when I first started shooting, it was so bad, I'd go out and practice how much I could shake on a target and still hit it. An idea behind that, when I got in the match and I saw this out-of-control feeling, I knew if I could break that shot, I'd get this size of a group. And I could live with it instead of making it perfect, because I didn't have the ability then to make it perfect. So I had to live with that. And if I saw that in the match, it came on, I had the shakes, or I'm just out of control, I don't have any wind, and I see this, I'm just going to press a shot and make it happen. That's the reality of the moment. It's the best I am at that time. So I shoot. Don't get locked up. It's an action match. You got a big magazine. Have fun. That's how you learn. You got to have fun. You got to relax and see where you are, and then start evolving. Make it better. Make it better.
Let's go into that. Can you show that grip one time real quick, Jerry? So you like you said, you're getting it high, and then what are you doing with your support hand then?
Well, it would look. Let me see. The camera would be. I'm gonna point this way.
I'll move over a little bit for you.
So if you notice now, the gun is not at all in line with my arm, and it can't be. It has to be in line with my eye.
Okay.
See, it's not. This is in line with my arm. So if I was to bring it up to the target, it's gonna look hard left. So I got to turn it into my eye. You see how offset it is?
Yeah.
So with the weak hand, what I'm going to try to do is get this as high as I can. I wish I could get my wrist over center more and shoot it like this. It would be good, but my wrist is not that flexible. And having shot revolver as long as I have, I want to hold it here. And I still get acceptable results with it. So this is where I'm at with my weak hand. But you can see it's as high as I possibly can get it.
Sure.
And not be on the slide.
Yep.
And I kind of do a pull on the trigger guard. And I'm trying to pull the pistol this way and then push it the other way, so I have a bit of a torque in the grip.
Yeah.
And that really puts me on the bottom of the grip, because when you fire it, this is what it wants to do. It wants to pivot like this. So it's going to want to go down. I'm going to say, no, you're not going down. So the bottom of my hand says, no, you're not going that way. And I'm going to squeeze it together with both arms. You see the muscle tension that I put on it.
I can see it in your arms.
It won't let it go down.
Yeah.
But if you come up and slap under my frame, come up and push on it. Just slap it up. Hit it.
I mean, it's just
You see, it's
staying
not,
flat.
it doesn't noodle.
Yeah.
I won't give it a segmented recoil. So when the gun goes off, it does this instead of this.
That's when I
Sure
watch
enough.
you guys
You
and the
know?
edge guys shoot a pistol. It's like that thing just stays put, and they just
Right.
press, and
Right.
it just
And that's what you're looking for. One sight picture, then you don't have to hunt for it every time.
yeah.
It's just a matter of staying on the trigger and watch what you need to get out of it and then move to the next target.
Yep.
So you establish a rate of fire that you can engage a target at that distance at a known split time. So I can shoot 6 rounds in a second accurate. I'm just going to start shooting in 6 rounds in a second.
Yeah.
Let it go.
And then, difference with me yesterday, like I said, I've got a lot of room to grow with the pistol. I always say that, Jim. But, like, with the dots, like, there it is again. There it is again.
Yeah.
There it is
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
You get a little bit of a segmented recoil. So it'll phase out after a little practice.
That's good to know. I'll grow out of it, Jim. It's just a phase.
That's right. See, I like what we've done here. In the end, is of course, we said learn to shoot a pistol in 10 minutes with Jerry, and we've gone 25 at this point. But the thing is, nobody puts Jerry in a box.
No.
Nobody. And this has been this 25 minutes. I think if you went in thinking you'd know it all in 10 minutes, first off, I think now you've maybe learned a lesson. We haven't even managed to scratch the whole surface in 26.
We were just tricking you the whole
We
time.
were tricking you. But I think we've gone there. There is some phenomenal stuff here, stuff that you don't always hear people say. A lot of people jump straight into the mechanics, which we went over a little bit here, but they don't talk about getting your mind right, your body right, all that good stuff. That I love the fact that we kind of dove into that real quick.
Sorry about that.
No. It was good.
It's like it's
and
just
we've
like
gone
you're-
over 10 minutes.
Oh, this happens all the
Jerry,
time.
this is a regular occurrence.
Okay.
That's why we throw the ishas at the beginning. And also, like Jerry said, we think we're doing it right with the 10 minutes. We're questioning that, and we're going long.
That's right.
What about, so we covered grip, covered stance. We're getting into some of the more mechanics. I did want to cover, because you were talking about the bend in your elbows yesterday, and I thought that was
Yeah.
just fascinating. So, target acquisition. What's going on there?
Oh, yeah, Mark, we're going to destroy 10 minutes if you go through your whole list. Mark printed me off some notes, by the way. Somebody commented the other day they love Mark's printouts.
He's picking me pretty hard.
He is.
Vision technique is probably the hardest to train. Some people have natural ability to see fast. I've trained enough guys to see instantly if a guy knows how to see. As simple as that sounds, it's very hard to teach vision skills. You can only equate it on a timer. The ability to see flat and not stare at something is a huge advantage.
Okay.
Because once you looked at something and you gave it a value of distance and size, you're looking downrange. You're not looking at what you are doing. The target owns you already. You don't want that target to ever own you. You want to own it.
Okay.
But once you stare, and that's what happens in police shootings, which is a totally different thing than having fun on a target.
Right.
So what happens to a police officer is the guy got his hand in his pocket like this, and he's giving him commands. Show me your hands, show me your hands, and show me your hands, and then he takes out a cell phone like this. So that's where that officer's vision went. So that target owns him.
Right.
His vision is here. So say it's the same thing again, and I pull out a whatever gun, and I'm like this. So now he has to react. So his vision is here. Obviously, he's accountable for everything he does. So he produces his sidearm. His vision is still there. He produces it. Next thing you know, the gun's in the way of his vision to the target. So if you look at vision technique, you see how it sucker punched me where my vision is here?
Yeah.
Because in competition, as soon as I draw that thing, I see it right here. I'm starting to shoot from here. I could shoot from here. Boom. Because my vision is so flat, I could do that. His vision is there. You see the difference?
Your vision's flat versus theirs being like a
you're
spotlight.
Right. So when you're shooting competition, you have the luxury of adjusting your vision to the target needs. The target doesn't own you. See, a police officer, the target owns him.
Yeah.
So he has to have enough instinctive ability to come into good form and make a shot under low light and high stress. If he doesn't know how to do that, that's why the hit ratio is so bad. I'm not saying it because it's a very stressful. I can't even imagine the amount of adrenaline dump you have in those situations. So if you don't have spot on good technique, the target, your muzzle is not going to look where the target is.
Right.
That's the luxury of shooting matches, that you learn vision techniques and how to apply them quickly to a target. Never stare at a target. It's going to own you.
Good to know.
It's not polite to stare.
Yeah. Don't stare. Don't stare at that target. Like
We were talking about. Hey, we've talked about trigger press.
Yes.
But Jerry, can you maybe demonstrate a proper trigger press?
Sure, here we can move again.
well, that's a broad topic, man. You could talk for a week on a trigger
dear.
press, and I've seen all kind of techniques work.
See what you've done, Mark.
But what you have to think,
We don't get him here very often.
No,
Jim.
I know.
what you have to think about a trigger, I look at it as a cycle instead of a slap. And there's a lot of slappers that do it extremely well. But if you have a trigger that commands a long travel and heavy weight, like a standard striker fired gun, say per se a Glock or a Smith & Wesson M&P series, it's a relatively long cycle time, and it can be 6 pounds or more. So it demands you to have a cycle instead of a slap. What competition guys like to do, they like to have the most lightweight trigger pull they can possibly have and be 100% safe, but it needs less technique to hit a target well.
Okay.
That's why a double action, single action pistol is so hard to shoot in competition. A lot of police officers are issued guns like this, where you have to shoot a long double action, then it fires and it goes to single action.
Mm-hmm. Right, so it's changing on you.
It's very hard to control that in a stressful situation. Some of them just actually cock it and go right to the single action. It's so hard to live with.
Yeah.
So speed shooters in general want a lightest trigger, takes the less amount of ability to shoot it well. So it's repeatable. A revolver with a long trigger pull, half-inch with the trigger pull, I have to play with that thing long before I get to the target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's it
Yes.
seems like, at least in my mind, there's just a longer period of your influence on the gun too. Like you're doing things for longer during that shot process. Is that
You do, and that's why your technique has to be spot on. If you have a trigger, if you're not interfacing with the face of the trigger square, you're going to pull it left or right. So revolvers demand excellent trigger control. If you want to learn how to shoot a handgun, shoot a revolver, double action. It'll teach you more how to shoot a handgun than any single action pistol will, because the cycle time is so hard and so long.
Makes sense.
It demands you to have perfect, because if your hand is not perfectly square with the face of that trigger, a right-handed guy usually torques it to the right, and a left-handed guy is going to torque it the other way.
Okay.
So when you have a long double action pull, you really have to have the ability to feel trigger pull from start to finish. These little guns like this is under a 3-pound trigger, so I can get pretty wild on it and still get an acceptable target. That's why we want them in competition.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Big topic, trigger control.
maybe we'll segment that one out and cover it again at some time.
Might need to.
Big topic.
Any tips on fighting recoil anticipation?
Different use of a firearm. Their bullseye guy doesn't really care if the gun goes off. That's the least important aspect of his whole performance, is the gun going off.
Okay.
Good side alignment, or should I say excellent side alignment, and a trigger surprise. He wants the gun to surprise him, so they usually have a trigger that, the old saying, break like glass. He wants a trigger. He wants to just keep pressing, and the gun goes off, and he just lets the gun recoil, because it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
He's done after that.
He's done. He's got like so many minutes to make so many shots. An action shooter goes bang, he wants to be right back on target. So that makes you a little punchy. It makes you have an anticipation, which is not a bad thing. It's when the timing is off. And you get these pre-ignition pushes, your timing is off.
You're trying to do the right thing at the wrong time.
Exactly. It would be great if you never did it, but that's your body giving you that little bit of a, I'm not going to let this thing jump.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to go through those cycles. We'll all go through flinch cycles, and you just have to work them out. That's your body trying to help you, and the timing gets off. But when they coincide, it's a good thing, and it's a bad thing. I try not to have it. I've shot enough through bad cycles to learn the good cycles and what it feels like. But if my gun was to snap, you'd probably see it dip.
And then the target would tell you that, because you'd have a round low.
Yep.
And it'll maybe even a little to the left with you being a right-handed shooter.
Maybe. I don't know if that's a correct answer to the question, but it's hard to break. Speed shooters experience it. Bullseye shooters hardly ever experience it.
I know that the guys down at the range, the edge instructors, there's, like you said, there's not really necessarily like do this and it'll fix it. It's more or less you just have to realize you're doing it.
Yep.
And then once you realize you're doing it, and then you can mentally try and stop yourself from doing the thing or a thing at the wrong time.
Usually when you get into a slap cycle like that, you don't feel the face of the trigger at all. So my reality check would to be, I'm starting to get rough on the gun. I want to actually start interacting with the trigger more. I want to feel some motion. If you feel some motion on the trigger, odds are you won't lunge at it.
Okay. Okay.
Kind of got to walk it. I've shot enough, you have to walk yourself back sometimes and go back to reality and come back. And so if you can feel the face of that trigger, some motion, lots of times you won't lunge at it.
That's a good tip.
Simple. Yeah.
Well, Jim, the screen has gone from
MC
red to
Ryan
just
has
dark.
actually just taken down the shot clock.
It's over.
We've done it.
Sorry, boss.
Hey, you did this once with Paul Neese, though, so,
It happens
every now and then
again.
you get a 10-minute
Sometimes
talk that
you get rolling.
goes wild.
We'd have done this a disservice if we just cut it off.
No, you're right.
Don't go to sleep on me.
Oh, I don't know. That's not possible. Fantastic stuff, though. There's probably a number of other, as we've mentioned. Pretty much every single one of these is a topic in and of itself, but you kind of have at least an overview. You can't learn to shoot a pistol in 10 minutes. I'm just gonna be straight. I'm gonna be straight with you right now. I mean, maybe Jerry was thinking it, and he just so kindly obliged to do this episode. But even if you watch every YouTube video in the entire YouTube universe, you got to just go out and do it, and you got to learn.
Do it safely.
Do it safely. Thank you.
Yep.
But yeah, you got to learn and get some reps under your belt.
Yep. Any final thoughts, Jim? Any final parting words of wisdom, Jerry?
It's nothing 2 million rounds won't overcome.
There you go.
That's all.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Jerry. Hopefully, I know I learned a lot. Hopefully, the folks out there learned a lot. If you have any additional questions, let us know in the comments below. And other than that,
It's all good.
it's all good. Shoot straight. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.